Hey there, you fabulous folks. I hope your day has been absolutely awesome. We're back for another exciting episode of What If Naruto Was the Golden Devil. A big shout out to the amazing author behind this fanfiction and show them some love. You'll find their details in the description box below. If this what if scenario is getting your imagination going, drop a comment down below and share your thoughts. And don't forget to explore more mind-blowing what ifs on the channel. Alright, without further ado, let's jump right into this video. And just what do you mean by that? Zenovia questioned as she and her companions looked at Naruto with narrow eyes. Almost all of the OR Club members looked at Naruto in surprise, because that was not at all what they had expected the blonde devil to say. Do you intend on causing issues between our factions? Not a very smart thing for the descendant of Lucifer to do. Don't get me wrong, I have no intention on siding with the fallen angels, nor get in between any battles either of you have. However, leaning a little back into the couch with a calm expression, Naruto crossed his arms before continuing to speak. The matter concerning Excalibur and its fragments are a different story. If I manage to find any of the blades while they are in this town, I will not simply ignore them and hand them over to you or the church. And what exactly would be doing with those blades? Destroy them. Gawain questioned with a bit of an edge in his voice. That action would cause major tension between us even more, since the church and the Heaven faction wouldn't look kindly to you destroying our holy swords. You don't have to worry about that, I have no intention of destroying any of the 7 swords of Excalibur. Naruto said while leaning back on the cushion of the couch, easily dismissing the looks he was getting. What my reasons are for not making the pledge have nothing to do with my family, nor Ria's and her peerage, and chances are that my plans might not even follow through. Zenovia continued to stare at Naruto with an even look before speaking in an equally blank tone. Regardless of what your plans are, if you intervene in our affairs or try to fight us, we will respond in kind and destroy you. Yeah, I'm sure you will try to at least, but be sure to remember that I will not stand still and let you do what you want. Naruto replied with a small smirk as he stared into Zenovia's eyes. Everything seemed to freeze as Naruto and the three stared at each other for what felt like minutes. Now then, if there was anything else you three wish to say, I suggest you say it now. Otherwise I think it would be best if you left to get started on your mission. Now, don't be rude, Naruto-kun. Ryu spoke up while giving her fiancé a cool smile. We should at least offer them some tea before they left. It is the polite thing to do after all. I'm sorry, but we cannot befriend devils. Zenovia replied before standing up from the couch, Irina and Gawain following her actions before they started to make their way towards the doors. We will be taking our leave now. Gawain, Ashia muttered in a low whisper as she stared at her first friend as he started to walk out. After that first few words spoken between them, Gawain had seemed to ignore her, and it had hurt the poor girl that he hadn't even looked at her during the whole time. The cloak-wearing teen stopped walking as he seemed to have heard her whisper his name, turning his head back to look at her with a sad gaze. Zenovia and Irina had taken notice to their companion coming to a stop, and followed his gaze to Ashia, to which the brunette narrowed her eyes a bit. I've been wondering this for a while now, but are you Ashia Argento? Ashia quickly turned to Zenovia before nodding her head. That's right, though I don't really go by Argento anymore. To think I would actually come across a witch. As soon as Zenovia said that, the blonde girl let out a gasp in shock before her head lowered at the accusation. Irina looked from Zenovia to Ashia, studying the girl's appearance before speaking herself. I had heard that you were once a saint, but was exiled because you could heal devils and fallen angels. I never would have thought a woman like that would become a devil. Irina's harsh words betrayed the smile on her face, while Ashia looked down in shame, gripping onto her skirt tightly. Ashia, Issei looked at the girl with a sad yet angry expression. Next to him, Kaneko was holding onto his side to prevent him from moving and causing a scene. Naruto was sitting in his seat with his arms crossed and his eyes closed, though Rias could see one of his hands was gripping his arm tightly, which Arcuite and Akeno also noticed before looking back at the former nun. Behind Zenovia, Gawain had his head down as well with his eyes closed and a solemn look on his face. For one that was called a saint, to become something as low as a devil, I have to question your belief in our god. Zenovia asked. Her question made Irina turn to look at her with a face of curiosity and disgust. This had brought many to look at Zenovia with mixed expressions, well even except for Naruto who hadn't moved an inch. The girl that has become a devil shouldn't have faith in the Lord, right? Irina asked. People may commit treason and still feel a sense of guilt. There are some that don't lose their faith, I get that feeling from her. Zenovia said with a neutral tone, making Irina look back at Ashia with a mocking look. Is this true, Ashia? Do you still believe in the Lord even when you're a devil? I can't let my beliefs go, especially since I have had them all my life. The former nun's answer caused Gawain's expression to soften, and a smile appeared on his face. It was a bit relieving to see that Ashia hadn't been corrupted since becoming a devil. But even as he thought that, Zenovia had a different opinion to Ashia's words as she unwrapped her sword and looked at Ashia. If that is really how you feel, then you should let us kill you now. Ashia was shocked at her words and took a small step back, but that didn't stop Zenovia as she continued to speak. You will be punished in the name of the Lord, and he will forgive you for your sins. Zenovia. Gawain spoke up with a sharp tone. That is enough. It is one thing to question one's beliefs, but I will not stand by while you and Arena continue to bully Ashia. Understood, but I wasn't bullying her. I was merely stating my duty as a woman of faith. Zenobia replied, but she didn't put away her blade as she held it up to Ashia. I won't let you kill me. That made the two turn to Ashia, who finally lifted her head up to look up at them with a determined, yet slightly tearful, look. Zenobia was the first one to speak as she lifted her sword with both hands. I see, so all that belief you were talking about was a sham. No, it wasn't. I still believe in God, but since I was exiled I had gone through many trials, and I believe they were tests that he had created for me, and because of those trials, I was able to make friends and find a family that loves me. Ashia's body trembled as she continued to talk, not noticing the smiles on the club members' faces. Naruto-ni-san had said that being a devil doesn't change who I am, and being a devil doesn't make me evil. I will hold on to my beliefs and live my life as a devil, because that is who Ashia Arg no Ashia Uzumaki Lucifer is. What fitting words for a witch, for someone that followed the path of sainthood to become this. Zenobia tightened her grip on her sword before raising it above her head. I suppose even death won't redeem you. The next thing Zenobia knew, she was slammed back against the wall before sliding to the floor. She glanced up to see Naruto standing in front of Ashia with a mixed aura surrounding him, but what shocked her the most was that he was easily holding Excalibur Destruction in one hand, while pointing its blade at Arena's neck, as the girl had tried to reach for the ribbon on her arm. And though Gawain wasn't moving, he was surrounded by several energy spears made up of light and darkness. I'm proud of you, Ashia. Little by little you've continued to grow into a stronger person, and as for you lot, don't you ever try to attack my little sister again, or else I will take every single one of you down. Such threatening words for a devil. Even someone like you must know the fate of those that challenge the entire church. Zenobia had an amused smile as she rose back up to her feet. I'm not challenging the church, nor am I attacking you as a devil. I am doing what any older brother would do and protecting my sister from people like you. Naruto pulled Excalibur Destruction from Arena's neck and dismissed the spears surrounding Gawain. With a flick of his wrist, Naruto tossed the sword back to Zenobia, who quickly caught it before getting into his stance. If you really wanted to fight me, you should have said something to me directly instead of threatening people precious to me. If it's a fight you want, then I will be happy to accept. I will also be joining in on this battle. Everyone turned to see Kiba standing against the wall with his arms crossed. Silently Gawain studied the newest person in the room, taking in his appearance as Zenobia spoke up. And who are you? Kiba Udo, your senior. Kiba replied as he took a step from the wall. I was wondering where you were, Kiba, Naruto said with a smile, but was surprised when Kiba turned to look at him with a glare before looking away. Naruto narrowed his eyes at that. It didn't take a genius to know why Kiba was acting like this. Come on, Kiba, don't let your hatred get the better of you. Arcuite clapped her hands to get everyone's attention, while Len was standing next to her and copying her movements. If you guys are going to fight, I suggest you do it outside. I agree, even if it will be a small fight, it is better for you to fight outside. Gawain said in agreement while holding his hands up. It will be Kiba versus Arena and Naruto versus Zenobia, and no one else is to interfere with each other's fights, understand? Arena, Zenobia, Kiba and Naruto all looked at each other before nodding their heads in agreement. Outside the old building. Are we sure we can allow this to go on, fighting against members of the church? Akeno questioned as she and the other girls, plus Issei and Gawain, watched as the four got into position. A simple unofficial sparring match shouldn't be a problem, right? Rhea shifted her gaze to Gawain, who nodded his head with a small smile. Of course, as long as neither side goes for the killing blows, then there should be no issues with either faction. The two girls quickly discarded their cloaks to reveal matching black outfits, the standard battle uniforms for the church, which appeared to be skin-tight and left their thighs and arms exposed, black fingerless gloves and boots, and necklaces with cross. Their appearances caused Issei to let out a small perverted laugh, before shaking his head to regain focus, which was good for him, since Kaneko had a fist ready just in case. So we'll have to make sure not to kill you. Zenobia commented. Whatever you say, Naruto chuckled as he raised his hand into the air and summoned a magical circle in front of his hand. But just as the handle to his sword started to exit the seal, the air around Naruto's hand picked up and covered the sword in a layer of wind, making it invisible to everyone. I just hope you guys can back up your mouths. What is with that wind? Trying to hide your blade? What a dishonorable and pathetic attempt to try to win. Zenobia questioned, but her words did reflect what some were thinking, as they could definitely see that Naruto was holding something in his hand. Naruto raised the invisible swords in his hand, bending the wind around his sword even more. This is something I actually picked up from my familiar bester. He's a sky storm lighter. I call it invisible air. It may seem strange, but I have my reasons for this, and besides, I thought a wielder of an Excalibur fragment would have no problem sensing my blade enough to fight it, but I guess they aren't as good as I thought. That caused Zenobia to frown as she glared at Naruto, who got into a stance with his legs spread a little, and his blade held in both hands. Kibble looked away from Naruto to face his own opponent, letting out a small laugh as he summoned several swords using sword birth. I'm happy to get this chance to face and destroy one of the blades I despise the most in the world. Sword birth, you must be the survivor of the Holy Sword Project years ago. Arena deduced as she got into position, before charging forward. I hope you're ready, because I have no intention on losing as long as I have got to assist me. Amen. Naruto and Zenovia charged at each other with their swords raised, before swinging them down at each other's blades. Zenovia had fully expected for Naruto's blade, whatever it was, to shatter upon impact, but to her surprise, he only grinned as he pressed harder and caused her to take a step back. Naruto tilted his sword a little and slid it down until it was in the gap between Excalibur Destruction's guard and blade, and with a twist, his pulled Zenovia closer to him before sweeping one of her legs, and caused her to hit the ground. She quickly backflipped back onto her feet, just as Naruto slammed his sword in the area she had previously been. Zenovia quickly went on the offensive as she slashed at Naruto with full intentions on destroying whatever sword he had in his hands, but his blade held strong as he swung his sword to match her every strike. On her final swing, Naruto used his sword upon impact to guide Zenovia's Excalibur to the ground, which created a giant crater that was between 20 to 30 meters wide and several meters deep. Taking a leap back, Zenovia took a different stance before speaking. Just what kind of magic is that invisible air? How can it deflect the destructive power of my Excalibur Destruction? Nothing can withstand its power. Invisible air isn't negating your sword's power, it is still in its testing phase, so it is limited in what it can do. Naruto explained while swings his sword a few times. My sword can be destroyed by Excalibur Destruction, so that means that your sword's ability is useless against me. Then I'll just have to beat you the old-fashioned way. Zenovia exclaimed before charging forward with a downward swing. Naruto smirked as he didn't move from his spot as she ran at him, only for him to disappear in an instant, and reappear right in front of her with her arms still in the air. Her eyes slowly widened as Naruto's face was not even a foot away from her own, before she felt pain in her stomach, which caused her to look down to see that Naruto had slammed his knee into her gut. It was a second later she was sent flying back into a tree, making a few crack marks appear from the impact. What's the matter? You were so sure earlier that you could destroy me, that you could kill me and my sister without any problems, and let me just tell you that I will never let that happen. Naruto took a step forward and made his way over to Zenovia, who was getting back to her feet. Even devils have things we need to protect, things we fight for and believe in. Just because our two sides are different doesn't mean one is better than the other, all the factions have their ups and downs. You automatically called Ashia a saint, but as soon as she revealed that her ability could do something you guys didn't like, you abandoned her. And what right do you have to criticize our beliefs? It was her fault for turning against God. Zenovia retorted before slamming Excalibur Destruction into the ground, causing a big explosion and another large crater to form. The dust cloud created from the explosion covered her form from sight, before it spread around Naruto. Naruto-senpai, Kiba glanced to the clouds several yards away before turning back to Arena with a frown. The girl was pretty fast with her sword, especially since it turned itself into a katana, which was a light-weighted sword. Reunite quickly dismissed these thoughts as he stabbed the sword in his hand into the ground, before picking up two new swords, and ran at Arena, while swinging the blades as fast as he could, creating ice and flames with each swing. He's really going all out, isn't he? Oh well, I guess I'll just have to show him the power of my faith. Arena said to herself with a smile before grabbing onto the hilt of her sword with two hands. I can't see anything inside that cloud, I hope Naruto-senpai is okay. Issei spoke up as he looked from Naruto's battle to Kiba's, the blonde knight barely blocking one of Arena's attacks before releasing ice from one of his swords. Kiba looks like he's having trouble over there. That's because he's letting his emotions get the better of him, Gawain spoke up, making them turn to see that he had a disappointed look on his face as he shook his head. I don't mean to offend you or anything, Grimoire-san, but you will need to deal with your knight's issue with Excalibur before it is too late. I am well aware of that. Ryuz replied sharply as she continued to watch the battles in front of her. The sounds of blades clashing could be heard throughout the area, as the four continued to fight. Arcueid stared silently at the battlefield before turning to Akeno, who exactly is going to clean this mess up. You don't worry about that, we have special ways when it comes to cleaning up messes like these. Akeno said to Arcueid with a smile, I just hope Naruto-kun and the others don't cause too much trouble. It's a good thing that no one else is still at the school, or this match would catch a lot of attention. It doesn't really matter, both of them are about to finish up. Akeno gazed at her fellow queen, who now had a bored look on her face as she watched the battle. Naruto stood silently in the center of the dust cloud, his eyes closed for a few seconds before they snapped open, and he swung his sword upward to the space behind him, blocking Zenovia's attack. The collision of the two swords caused the cloud to quickly disperse, and the spectators could finally see what was going on. Zenovia landed on her feet as she continued to put pressure into her attack. The Lucifer heir glanced at his where both swords were connected, though he was the only one that could see his blade at the moment, and he could feel a small rush of excitement go through his body. I have to admit, you aren't that bad. Right back at you. It's been a long time since someone other than Gawain to push me like this. Zenobia replied before her eyes went to the invisible sword in Naruto's hands. As long as that sword is covered by his magic, I will be at a disadvantage, since I don't know what type of blade it is, or how long its length is. If you are going to be lost in thought, how about I finish this now? Naruto spun his sword until its blade connected with Excalibur Destruction's axe-like guard, and the next thing Zenobia knew she was once again sent flying back. Regaining herself in the air, she spun herself to land on her feet, but to her shock, she saw that not only did she not have her sword, Naruto now had it, and spun it around until his hand grabbed onto its hilt. He flashed her a smile, but she saw that behind his innocent appearance, a large creature formed behind him, which made her eyes widen in shock. That was all Naruto needed, as he did a sideswipe with his sword while pointing it at the ground, sending a gold wave of energy that crashed into the ground, and the impact made her take a small step back, covering her face from the shockwave and the dirt flying into the air. What was that? She didn't get any more thoughts, and as a voice spoke up at her side. You left yourself wide open. Naruto's eyes glowed as he raised both of the swords and passed the blue-haired girl. The swords were now in a different position, like he had just cut something. Zenobia turned back to look at him with a surprised expression. She didn't even see him move. He just passed her, and she felt something happen. Naruto paid her no mind as he stabbed Excalibur Destruction into the ground, raising his hand in a snapping motion. You're definitely talented and you are very strong, but it not enough to beat me. With the snap of his fingers, most of Zenobia's clothes except for one of her gloves, cross necklace and her boots, was instantly torn and ripped apart, leaving most of her body bare for the world to see. Oh ho, nice one Naruto-senpai. Issei cheered while he held a hand over his bleeding nose. RR. Bakeno and Arcuite both laughed in amusement at Naruto's actions, while Rias only shook her head with a sigh. It seems Issei had rubbed off on him a little. Gawain was the next one to speak, looking back and forth between Naruto and Zenobia. Very impressive speed. I think it is obvious who has won this match. Zenobia had a hesitant look on her face as she didn't want to admit that she had lost to a devil, even if it was to an abnormal like Naruto. She should have prevailed since she had God on her side. She was suddenly cut off guard when her white cloak appeared over her body. She looked to see Naruto walking away from her in Excalibur Destruction, which was still stabbed into the ground, while sealing away his sword, turning around to giving her a glance back before he continued to walk away. One thing she had noticed though, the sword he had been using in their fight was not a demon sword, but a holy one instead. That made her curious as to which sword did he have that could stand up to Excalibur Destruction. As Naruto made it over to where the spectators were, he looked towards the other battle going on, and saw that Arena was standing over a defeated Kiba. One of her arms had a thin layer of ice over it, while other areas of her clothes looked like they had several scorch marks on them. But while she had those small problems, Kiba seemed to have only one injury, a cut going across his stomach that was releasing demonic energy. It looks like things are tied 1 for 1. Naruto shook his head before turning to look at Gawain. Now then, there is something that I've been meaning to ask you. Who's the fallen angel that is behind all of this and stole the Excalibur fragments? The one that stole the blades is one of the fallen angel leaders of the Grigori, Kakabiel. Zenobia was the one that answered instead of Gawain. As she and Arena walked up to the group, Ashia moved over to Kiba's body and began to heal him with her twilight healing. Many heads turned to look at her, some with shocked expressions as they recognized the name. I would rather destroy all the Excalibur fragments myself and let them fall into his hands, even if it is a dangerous mission. And we already lost one person on the mission to retrieve the stolen swords, a priest that we were supposed to meet up with to give us information on his preliminary investigation. Arena explained while thinking back to the dead priest they had found in the back of a church. It was most likely the freed Selzen who killed him. Everyone snapped their heads to the side to see that Kiba was getting back to his feet, completely healed thanks to Ashia. I had crossed paths with him, and he definitely had one of the Excalibur swords with him. I see, to be honest, I had a feeling that Kiba-san would react to this situation. Sona said as she took a sip of her tea. Naruto nodded his head in agreement before crossing his arms. Yeah, but for him to actually try and leave Rias-chan's peerage just shows how much revenge is getting to him. Next to him Rias was sitting silently with a teacup to her lips, though if you looked closely you could see that one of her eyebrows was twitching slightly. And to make matters worse, I think he's finally found out who Saber really is, judging by the look he had sent me before. That does seem troubling, the glasses-wearing devil replied while placing her cup down. Just like you both, those 3 from the church had also requested that my peerage stay out their affairs, which I had no problem doing, since I didn't want anyone in my peerage getting involved with those blades. And yet I get the feeling something is going to happen anyways. Naruto replied before looking down at the table, where a certain tiny spirit had finished a 4th plate and was moving on to a 5th. I know that I said I would pay for anything you ate, Saber, but I didn't say it was all you could eat. But Naruto-sama, these are some of the best cakes in the area, and they're on sale today. A knight must never lose in battle, and hunger is an enemy that must never win. Saber exclaimed as she shifted her seated position to face her partner. And on that note, Naruto-sama, I would like to have one of those carrot cake snacks. The four of them were currently in a dessert cafe, discussing what had occurred the day before between Naruto, Kiba, and the two they had fought. Originally, Rias and Naruto were planning on going on a small date before heading home, while talking a little bit about what they were going to do regarding Kiba and the other 6 Excalibur blades. But as they were leaving, Sona had, much to Ria's ire, joined them at their destination to find out what had happened with Naruto being in the same room as the members of the church. She had been honestly surprised to find out that the higher-ups in the Heaven faction had ordered for no one to do anything to harm Naruto, and was very suspicious on what they could be planning. As soon as they sat down in one of the booths, Naruto had cast a small illusion around them, so Saber could take a physical form, which the girl took great pleasure in as soon as she saw the different desserts in the displays. "You're such a glutton, Saber. It's hard to believe sometimes that you're one of the most powerful holy artifacts in existence," Naruto said with a shrug before standing up from his seat, leaving an amused Sona and Rias, while Saber was sending Naruto a frown, while her face was red. "I don't care if you're my master, there are some things I won't forgive." Just like a few months back, Saber was waving her arms childishly, while Naruto dismissed her words as he made his way to get the spirit another cake. Once Naruto had created enough distance from the table, Rias placed her teacup down. "You do know that I had planned on teleporting to your house after Naruto and I had gotten home, so there was no reason for you to come to us like this. A little on edge, aren't we? But I suppose that would make sense since you and Naruto hadn't gone on an actual date yet." Sona let out a low chuckle as she watched Ria's body twitch at her truthful words. "It's amazing that you both have been so intimate in almost everything but actually having sex, and yet neither of you had gone on an actual date." "It's not for a lack of trying," Saber spoke up while chewing on a strawberry she had plucked from a strawberry cheesecake. "Naruto-sama and Ria-san have attempted many times, but with so much going on there is always something to, what's that word again? Oh yes." Saber Rose cried out as she shot up from her seat, a small blush on her cheeks. "Don't finish that sentence. Ria-san and Sona-san, I'm surprised to see you both here." The three turned their heads to see their teacher, Mrs. Arizviel Emiya, standing a few feet away from them with a smile on her face. She had beautiful long white hair that was currently held up in a high ponytail, thanks to a large black ribbon, and she was staring at them warmly with her crimson eyes. Arizviel was a woman in her mid-30s and was very beautiful, despite what most would think when it came to people with hair as white as hers. According to her, almost everyone in her family have always had white hair, thought crimson eyes varied depending on the person. Her sense of fashion always seemed on the high-end side for a teacher. This time she was wearing a burgundy blouse with a brooch and an elegant white skirt that had black tights under it, and thick high white boots. "Usually you both are at your respective groups after school. Are you both done already? Do you know these girls, Arizviel?" The two girls turned to see that another woman was standing a foot behind her. She had long purple hair, and was wearing a lavender turtleneck with a yellow cape over it, and a dark purple long skirt that reached her ankles. "Oh, these two are the heiresses of the Gremory and Citri houses. You know who we are?" Sona questioned as she and Rias looked at the woman with suspicious gazes. "Hey guys, I'm back." Naruto walked towards the table with a large plate covered in different cakes, coming to a stop as he noticed the extra people. "Mrs. Emiya." The blonde devil and the second woman turned to each other with surprised looks, both of them blinking a few times before Naruto spoke. "Aren't you?" The purple-haired woman let out a laugh into her hand before she started to speak. "Oh my, I didn't think we would actually cross paths again in this manner. It's been a long time, Devil-san." Meanwhile, "Man, I can't believe I missed out on what happened yesterday because of stupid history lessons." Mito whined as she and Ashia walked past several stores in the shopping district. Ashia let out a giggle as she looked down at the girl. "You know that your lessons are more important than meeting some strangers. Besides, everything was so tense, and it wouldn't have been a good place for you to be. Like you are one to talk, it must have been hard being in the same room as them, huh?" Even if Oni-chan stopped that girl, she still tried to threaten your life. The younger sister replied before turning to Ashia, who in return looked down at her feet. "But you should be happy, Ashia Ni-chan, you stood up to them and got to see that old friend of yours." "Yes, I suppose you're right," Ashia replied with a smile as she thought back to what she had said before, and the courage she had felt. After a few minutes of walking, a teasing grin grew on Mito's face before she turned to Ashia once again. "And you must have been really excited to see the Gatwain guy again." "What? Mito-chan?" Ashia turned completely red as she came to a sudden halt. "What? He's the boy you were talking about before, right? The one you had to say goodbye to when you left the orphanage to become a saint." Mito continued with a knowing look. "If he is the same person, then that means he was your first love." Mito slowly came to a stop when she noticed how the sad expression that appeared on Ashia's face. "During the meeting, Gatwain didn't really look at me, except for when he introduced himself to Bucho and Naruto Ni-san, and during the matches he didn't say anything to me, even though I was standing next to him. But to be honest, I don't think I could really face him if it were just the two of us." Ashia once again started walking again, to which Mito followed as she listened to her sister speak. The two of us were separated so quickly, we never had the chance to say goodbye to each other. But what about that cross he gave you? He didn't hand me it exactly. Gawain had caught up to us and tossed the cross to me before running off. The two of us are on opposite sides now, and no matter how much it hurts, I know that the two of us remaining as friends would be next to impossible. Ashia began to turn the corner as she said this, her head low as she thought about what Zenobia had said about her the day before. Even though Ashia still had her faith, the fact remains that she was a devil now, and Gawain was a member of the church, and they were now enemies. The blonde girl was cut off from her thoughts however as she bumped into someone. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't paying attention. You haven't changed a bit, Ashia." The former nun snapped her head up to see Gawain looking down at her with a smile. The head of his cloak was down to reveal his face to the world. "You're still as clumsy as ever." "Gawain, what are you doing here?" Ashia asked in a shocked tone while Mito was blinking a few times in surprise. Gawain let out an awkward chuckle before rubbing the back of his head with one hand, while holding up a small sack with the other. "Well, you see, one of my companions had done something really foolish while I wasn't around, and tried to purchase a painting of a saint, which was painted by a kindergartner, and didn't even resemble any of the saints. There's no way someone could be that stupid." Mito spoke up while feeling a sweat drop falling down the side of her head. "It's not that she was stupid, just blinded by fate." Gawain looked down at the girl with a smile, which seemed to annoy Mito for some reason. "Anyway, I was just getting the money back from the person who sold it to her." "Really? That was nice of him to agree to a refund," Ashia said with a smile. Mito raised an eyebrow. She was a little suspicious on what really happened. "Yeah, nice. Well, I better go meet up with Arena and Zenobia now. Those two are probably out begging on a corner or something." Gawain muttered before letting out a sigh, closing his eyes as he reached up to pull the hood over his head. "I'm definitely going to be the one responsible for the money from now on." As Gawain started to walk away, Ashia called out to him. "Wait, Gawain. Is there something you need, Ashia?" Ashia looked a little hesitant to speak, but then felt Mito push her back a little bit, but when she turned around to look at the girl she saw that Mito had disappeared. The female blonde turned back to Gawain, who was giving her a curious look as he waited for her to speak. "Would you like to stop somewhere and get something to eat? It's been a long time and I thought we could catch up or something." Gawain stared at Ashia for what seemed like minutes before nodding his head with a smile. "Alright, I'd like that. Do you know any good places around here that we can sit and eat?" "As a matter of fact, I do know one place very close to here." Ashia smiled back at Gawain before excitedly grabbing onto his hand, and, much to his surprise, started pulling him along. "It might not be a family restaurant, but the food there is very good." "I'm surprised on how strong Ashia has gotten. Is it because of her becoming a devil?" Gawain wondered to himself as he looked up from their connected hands to Ashia's smiling face, but she let out a happy giggle, and the small smile on Gawain's face grew a little. "I've really missed that smile. Arena and Zenobia should be fine on their own for a while. I doubt those two will do anything stupid like before." "But Arena and Zenobia. What do we do, Zenobia?" "We sold our souls to devils," Arena said in a dramatic fashion as she moved her hands into a praying motion. "I know what you mean." Zenobia nodded her head in agreement as she held her head down. "It may have been to help us, but accepting their help makes it feel like the world is ending. All I did was treat you guys to a meal." Issei shouted in anger, making many heads in the family restaurant turn to look at the group. Kaneko looked up from her drink and let out a sigh before tugging on the brunette's shirt, silently signaling him to calm down. "Yeah, I know, Kaneko-chan. We can't afford to have things go so sour." So Issei was cut off as he, Kaneko and Saji, who had been forcibly recruited to help them, suddenly held their heads in pain. "Please show mercy to these three good-hearted devils." Arena prayed while moving her hand from above her head to her chest before moving across to the sides. "That is one blessing we don't need." Issei whined as the devils continued to hold their heads with Saji gritting his teeth, and Kaneko nodded her head in agreement, her body twitching as she also had her hands on her head. "Oh, I'm sorry, I just felt like doing it." Zenobia interrupted the conversation by placing her now empty glass onto the table, giving the three a hard stare, as she spoke in an even tone. "Now how about you tell us why you've come to us? We would like to help you destroy Excalibur," Issei said in a serious tone as he placed his hands on the table. Back to Ashia and Gawain. Gawain tilted his head a little as he stared down at the meal in front of him. "So what was this called again?" "It's called a cheeseburger, and these over here are called French fries," Ashia explained from her seat across from Gawain, pointing at each of the foods in front of him. "It may not look like much, but they are delicious, and they are finger food, which means you don't need a fork or knife to eat them." "Really? Wow, remember back in the orphanage when the nuns would tell us that the world was full of miracles and things that were unbelievable? They tell us all the time about the world God created, and how if we stayed faithful good things would be our reward." Gawain smiled as he stared at the food before reaching out to grab the burger, and brought it up to his face. "So do I just start or do I need to do something first?" Ashia quickly wiped her hands with a disinfected wipe and smiled at Gawain before grabbing her own burger and took a bite of it, happily chewing on her food before speaking to Gawain. It's fine to just start eating, so I hope you enjoy it. Gawain went quiet at that and started to eat his burger, taking an experimental bite before he quickly finished his burger in less than a minute. That was pretty good. I'm so glad to hear that. To be honest, I had a feeling you might like it. I remember when Naruto-ni-san and Mito-chan brought me here for the first time. Ashia took another bite of her burger, before placing it down on her tray with a sad look on her face. It was during the chaos with the fallen angels. I had heard that there had been some conflict between the devils in this region and a few fallen angels. To think that you had been in the middle of it, and then my group and I come into town with a whole new issue with the fallen angels. Gawain bowed her head a little with his eyes closed. I am really sorry to have dragged you guys into this. Even though we had asked your king to stay out of our affairs, if what Kibayudo said was true, then I believe you all will be involved one way or another. If we do end up getting involved, I hope no one from either one of our groups get hurt. Ashia said as she thought about the possible chaos that could occur. Hopefully I'll be able to do something to help. Haha, I'm glad. Gawain said while letting out a soft laugh which made Ashia look at him with confusion. Ever since the two of us were separated all those years ago, I had always wondered what kind of person you would have become, especially after the church had kicked you out after that incident with that devil. I wish I had been there to protect you. To make sure you didn't have to go through any of that pain alone. Well, it was a painful time. Finding friends and a family made up for it completely. And even though I am a devil now, I still enjoy helping people when I can. The blonde girl thought back to the different requests she had taken recently. Gawain reached over to his drink and brought it closer to him. For a while, I was a little fearful of the possibility that you weren't going to be still the same sweet and innocent girl I met all those years ago. But I guess I didn't have anything to worry about. You've turned into a wonderful person, Ashia. I'm truly sorry for ignoring you like that during the meeting yesterday. It's alright, I understand. Ashia shook her head with a sad smile. To be honest, I was afraid of crossing paths with you as well, because I didn't know how things were going to be between us. But now I am very happy to see that you are here and perfectly healthy. Well, a lot of things had happened after you had left. I wish I could tell you about it, but a lot of it is top secret. Gawain took a sip of his drink and noticed Ashia had a cute pout, before speaking again quickly. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about other things. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Oh, that's right. Ashia smiled as she placed one of her clenched hands into her other hand, this one wide open. There is something important I need to do first. Something you need to do? Gawain repeated in an unsure tone as he watched Ashia start to go through her bag. Whatever it was Ashia was looking for didn't take long as a smile grew on her face, and she pulled out a small black box. Gawain raised an eyebrow as she placed it on the table between them and opened the lid, and what was inside caught him by surprise. That's my cross. That's right, ever since you gave it to me it's been my sacred treasure, and I've been taking great care of it. Though Naruto-ni-san has been helping keep it clean since I can't touch it with my bare hands anymore. Ashia's happy smile faltered a little bit when she looked up from the cross to Gawain. I've had it for so many years, and it's given me a lot of courage and strength, and reminding me of you. But I think it would be better for me to return it to you. I'm sure you wouldn't want a devil to hold on to something this precious to you. Gawain reached his hand out towards the box before delicately picking up the cross, which was the exact same one Naruto had used in his battle against Razor, and brought it closer to his face. This cross was all I had left of my mother when I was found at the orphanage as a baby. There was no other clues to who I was other than my name and this cross. Back when we were living at the orphanage, you never let it out of your sight. Ashia closed her eyes as she remembered the times when they were younger, but you gave to me as a way for us to still be connected, even when we were apart. Now that I am a devil though, it may look bad on you to still have ties to someone like me. Gawain stared at his cross for a few minutes before he silently placed it back into the box, and slowly lowered the lid until it was shut. Ashia bowed her head as she expected him to put the cross away. But to her great surprise, Gawain pushed the box towards her with a warm smile on his face. Ashia, even if people are against it, I don't ever want to destroy the bond between us. You're someone I care about very much, that's why I want you to continue to hold on to this for me. Are you sure? Ashia asked hesitantly. Of course I am. Gawain gently grabbed one of her hand and placed it on the box, though Ashia's face went a little red as she felt the warmth coming from his hand as he held hers. This cross is a symbol of our bond, and as long as it exists we will always be connected to each other. Gawain, Ashia whispered as she looked from their connected hands to his face, which he seemed to follow, and before they knew it their eyes met. Their bodies seemed to freeze as they continued to stare into each other's eyes, a blush slowly growing on both of their faces, before they snapped their heads to look away from one another. It would be another few minutes before they cheerfully stared, talking again, talking for several hours before going their separate ways with smiles on both of their faces. It was already nighttime as Naruto silently walked down the road with only himself being present, since most would already be heading home. He had decided to see if he could sense any of the stolen Excalibur blades, and parted way with Sona and Rias when they had chosen to go to Sona's house. The three said their goodbyes to their teacher and her companion, whose name they learned was Medea. It was a surprise to see her again, and even more so that she actually knew who he was. It had turned out that she was a mage who had gone silent after getting married to her husband, and was mostly trying to live the peaceful life. She had known Azazel for many years now, since the white-haired woman was a partially retired magician herself. That had also surprised Naruto, since neither she nor Ryuzo had said anything to him about their teacher being magically aware. Naruto. With a strong gust of wind, Bester appeared by his master's side, snapping him out of his thoughts as he turned to look at his familiar, and he also felt Saber's small figure appear on his shoulder with a hand against his cheek. Stay alert. He's right, someone's watching us. Naruto closed his eyes as he sensed for any presence nearby. He quickly snapped his eyes open and looked up to see a figure descending towards him. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he took in the figure's appearance. There were only two things that he could see about the person. The first was that they were mostly covered in a brown cloak, and the only thing that showed their appearance was the lower half of their face, which was feminine. The second was that on the female's back were 4 pairs of wings, fallen angel wings. I've been looking for you, Naruto Uzumaki Lucifer. The female spoke up as she landed on the ground. And what reason does a fallen angel has to be looking for me? Naruto questioned as he summoned some of his magic, and it formed multiple swords of light and darkness. The cloaked fallen angel didn't seem to be affected at all by the large quantity of weapons pointing at her, as she took a few steps forward before stopping several steps away. I did not come here to fight you. The reason I am here is because there is someone who wishes to speak to you, and had sent me to find you. So someone wants to see me, huh? Well, sorry to say this, but unless you have a very important reason, then I will leave right now. Naruto placed his hands in his pockets and silently motioned for Saber to sit on Bester, while never taking his eyes off the woman in front of him. The last time I dealt with fallen angels, they tried to kill me. They kidnapped my sisters, attempted to steal the sacred gear that belonged to one of them, and then tried to kill them along with a friend of mine. So as you can see, I have no interest of going anywhere with you, unless I can have a guarantee that you guys will not attempt something. I do understand what you are saying, and normally you would be correct in this situation, but the person I am taking you to see has no interest in attacking you. In fact, he finds you fascinating. Naruto could see an amused smile on the cloaked woman's face. Besides the sacred gears and certain users, Azazel-sama has never shown much interest in conflicts or individuals of other factions. Did you just say Azazel? As in the leader of the fallen angels, Azazel. Naruto dismissed his weapons as his thoughts went miles by the minute. What would he be here for, unless it has something to do with Kakabeel? Maybe it does or maybe it doesn't. All I was asked to do was bring you to him. I am heading there anyway, so whether you agree to come with me or not is up to you. The wings on her back spread out wide before she crouched a little and then took flight. Naruto was silent as he watched the woman begin to leave the area before summoning his own wings. Naruto-sama, are you sure you want to do this? Regardless of who the man is, the fact remains that there is a small chance of this being an attack. Saber said from her spot on Bester's head. He nodded his head slowly in agreement. I realize that, but I get the feeling that Azazel may have a few answers for me regarding this current situation, and besides, a small grin grew on Naruto's face as he took to the skies, saying one last thing to Saber and Bester before dismissing them. I am a little curious to see what this guise is like. A little while later, the port. As Naruto and the cloaked fallen angel landed on the dock, they could see a tall man with black hair and golden bangs, wearing a gray clothes sitting on a chair several feet. He appeared to be fishing as he stared out at the water, taking his eyes off his fishing rod to look at his newly arrived guests. Well, I've been expecting you for a while now. I am glad we get to meet face to face, Naruto Lucifer, or do you prefer Uzumaki? This Naruto is fine, so you're Azazel. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he felt the woman retreat back several feet to give the two some privacy. That's right, tell me Naruto. Azazel started to smirk before he held up a second fishing pole. Do you like to fish? Naruto blinked a few times at the odd question before shaking his head. Maybe some other time. Now I don't mean to sound rude, but how about you get to the chase on why you wanted me here? Azazel was quiet for a few seconds before he motioned for Naruto to sit, to which the blonde warily agreed to before he sat next to the man. How about we make a deal, an answer for an answer? Since you asked first, let me say that you've caught my curiosity. A devil that is the descendant of Lucifer can use both light and darkness together without any difficulty. How could I resist the chance to meet someone like that? I suppose that makes sense, but like I had said to your companion before, I had a bit of trouble with some of your fallen angels, so please understand that I am not exactly comfortable with being alone with their leader. Naruto crossed his arms as he looked from Azazel to the ocean. Oh yes, I do apologize for that. You see, I had originally sent Rainer to do a surveillance on Asahidu and his sacred gear, but as you could see, they took matters into their own hands. Azazel tugged his fishing rod a few times before once again letting it settle. And you're not really alone, are you? That familiar of yours is hiding himself with wind magic, so he can protect you. They do also want them to study me and kill me if I had turned out to be a descendant of Lucifer. Sorry, but it's my turn. So is the reason you can use pure light magic because of the sacred gi or holy artifact. Naruto frozen for a second before turning to Azazel, who was giving him an amused look. I highly doubt it was something you acquired naturally, regardless of who your father is. Putting that last sentence about his father in the back of his mind, Naruto decided to answer the fallen angel's question. That's how it was originally, but after the years I adapted to it and gained my own. The light magic from it created and strengthened it even more after I awakened as a devil. Interesting, now I just need to figure out which one it is. Azazel thought to himself with calculative smile. He always liked a challenge. It's your turn now. I can sense a say summon card on you, which means you are a client of his and a recent one at that. You haven't told him who you are, otherwise he would have told Ryuz or I about it, which means you don't want others to know you are here until you've accomplished whatever it is you and your companion came here for. Naruto deduced, to which Azazel nodded his head to show Naruto was correct. That's right, I'm very impressed. I guess I shouldn't be surprised with you being Lady Kaguya's grandson and all, and what's your question? Azazel asked with an impressed tone. Naruto uncrossed his arms and threw a small blade of darkness into the water, and pulled on a small energy string to bring the blade back, revealing that the blade had pierced a large fish. Do you plan on stopping Kakebiel before he takes things too far? And what makes you think I'm after Kakebiel? Azazel watched as Naruto removed the blade from the fish and placed the fish on the ground between them. The Uchiha lacks to want to cause any major incident with the other factions, and seeing as most do not want to cause another great war, one really doubt the leader of one of the factions would be so eager to start one, especially after the exhaustion and losing a large amount of forces. Naruto tossed the blade into the air, making it spin several times before it landed in his hands. I don't know what Kakebiel wants, but if he stole 3 of the 7 Excalibur blades, then it can't be good. I can help you on that one. He plans on starting another great war. The blade in Naruto's hand fell to the floor before disintegrating as Naruto looked at Azazel in shock. Well, you are right about many not wanting to start another war. There are a few that don't agree with this pseudo-peace. As long as there is no official peace between the factions, then there will always be a door open to conflict. And even though I've stated that I am against starting another great war, Kakebiel is obsessed with proving that the fallen angels are the strongest and won't stop at anything to try and annihilate the devils and angels. Then he needs to be stopped before he can move any further with his plans. Stealing the holy swords alone caused issues with the Heavens faction, but if he targets the heirs of Gremory, Citri and Lucifer, it will bring war. Just then a magical circle appeared in front of Naruto, and a miniature version of Arcuite appeared. Is something wrong, Arcuite? Naruto, it seems to say, Kaneko, Kiba and Sona's pawn Saji, are with those 3 from the church, and are in a serious situation now. I am currently with the Keno and Tsubaki right now, and we are meeting up with Ryuz and Sona to head towards their location. Alright, tell them that I am heading over there now. I'll make sure those guys survive this. The mini Arcuite nodded her head before dismissing herself, causing the magical circle to vanish. Naruto stood up from his seat and turned to Azazel. I'm sorry I have to cut this short, but I have to help some idiots out. It's alright, I understand. It was a nice conversation. I hope we can have another one in the future. Naruto nodded his head as he started walk away, but came to a halt to look up at the sky behind him with narrow eyes. In the air above them was a silver-haired man, and on the man's back were a pair of blue wings, which to Naruto had a similar look to the dragons he had seen in his studies. Turning around again, Naruto had made it several more feet towards the end of the dock, when Azazel called out to him one last time. I have one last question before you leave. Is there any chance you will let my men take care of Kakebiel? He does fall under my responsibility, and as the leader of the Grigori I have to deliver his punishment. Raising one hand out, Naruto summoned a teleportation circle under him before turning back to Azazel. I will say this only once, you have until he targets my friends and family to stop him. Because once he does that, I don't care what it takes, I will protect my precious people, and I will kill him. As soon as he said that, the seal glowed brightly and Naruto vanished from Azazel and the cloaked female's sights. Humph, he acts different and has unique abilities, but in the end he is still a devil. I'm almost tempted to see how he stands up to Kakebiel, so what do you two think of him? He had turned his head back to see that volley had landed, and had already dismissed the wings on his back. All that was left of it were several blue particles of light floating around him, and the cloaked woman before they faded away. I didn't think he would actually detect my presence. I actually want to fight him even more now. Volley replied, before the cloaked woman nudged his side with her elbow. Ow, what was that for Yumi? I swear, the woman reached up and pulled her hood back to reveal a beautiful woman with long blonde hair with bangs that curled under her gray eyes, and if you look closely you could see a small mole under her right eye. All these years and there is still not one moment that you don't think of fighting someone. Now, you two. Azazel let out a small laugh as he continued to fish. Let's just relax and get ready, because if I know Kakebiel, he will start a fight with those devils and church swordsmen real soon. Yumi crossed her arms as she stared at the man's back. It sounds like you want him to fight Naruto, and the others. Aren't you worried about their safety? One wrong move and there could be chaos. Don't worry so much, Yumi-chan, I have it all under control. Azazel replied before patting the seat that Naruto had preoccupied, though it seemed to have gotten even closer to Azazel's seat. Now come here and keep me company. No way in hell. Yumi shot back before hiding behind Volley. You just going to grope my breasts again? Volley barrier. Oh Yumi, don't use me as a shield. Oh come on Yumi-chan, don't be like that. Stay away. Meanwhile, I'm about to mess you all up. Freed Selzen shouted as he dove at Kaneko with the glowing Excalibur rapidly in his hands. The Devil Group had managed to find Freed at an abandoned building, and immediately started to fight him, while Kaneko had sent a message to Arena and Zenovia on their location. It was in the middle of their battle that an older man wearing a priest outfit appeared and assisted Freed with how to fight with his sword. This man turned out to be Valper Galilei, the one that had been in charge of the Holy Sword Project, and the one responsible for the deaths of Kiba's friends. Zenovia and Arena had soon showed up, and just before Kiba and Zenovia could strike Freed down, he leaped off the pillar he was on, and used Excalibur rapidly to increase his speed as he flew at Kaneko. Kaneko-chan. That was all Asai could shout as he moved in front of her with his boosted gear held out in front of him to block the blow. Sure enough, he managed to block the first strike, but Freed quickly reached behind him and pulled out his gun, before pointing it at Asai and Kaneko. Asai-kun, get out of the way. Arena shouted as she started to run in their direction. Damn, I'm not going to make it. Kiba gritted his teeth as he leaped as far as he could to save his comrades. Just as Freed was about to take the shot, there was a bright orange glow from above, and a figure crashed down in the space between Freed and Asai, while another came from the side before both of them quickly shot their hands up. A loud bang was heard as Freed's went off, and a large blast of light went into the air. As the beam disappeared, everyone watched as the gun in Freed's hand was cut to pieces. What the hell? Freed looked down to see who got in his way, and his eyes whitened when he recognized one of the two figures. It's you, shitty Lucifer. The figures turned out to be Naruto and Gawain, both crouched back to back with their swords drawn, though no one could see Naruto's due to the invisible layer he had once again covered his sword with. Naruto glanced to the blonde next to him and smirked, you're not too bad. Neither are you, though I suppose that's expected from Ashia's brother. Gawain smiled back before the two stood up. Gawain. Naruto-senpai. Nice job protecting Kaneko-chan. Asai, I'm proud of you. Naruto flashed the brunette a smile, to which Asai rubbed the back of his head with a sheepish look. That all came to an end however with what Naruto said next, but don't think that gets you or the others out of your punishments. Wow, but, Naruto-senpai. Amazing, truly amazing. Valper shouted, making many heads turn to look at him. You are Naruto Lucifer, the devil that can use the light and not be harmed by anything holy or blessed. A creature such as you would have been the perfect test subject for my experiments. A frown instantly appeared on Naruto's face as he stared at Valper. I don't even know who that guy is, and I already despise him. That is Valper Galilei. He is also known as the Genocide Archbishop, and the one behind the Holy Sword Project, resulting in the deaths of many children. Gawain explained as he held his sword at his side. And you Gawain. You are capable of using a holy sword ever since your childhood, and without any of the light attribute enhancements. That made a few heads turn to look at Gawain, especially Kiba's. If I had gotten the chance, I could have studied you in order to find out how you had so much light within you, and used that knowledge, so others could have held the Excalibur swords. Regardless of whatever thrill you have, I suggest you surrender now. Unless you think you can take us all on. Naruto shifted his sword stance and held the invisible blade in front of him. Fuck you asshole. With this sword I will kill you, but first I'm going to make you pay for that cheap shot you hit me with back then. Freed shouted before holding up his glowing sword in front of him. It doesn't matter what immunities you have, a devil doesn't stand any chances against Excalibur. Naruto stared at Freed for a minute or so before he started to laugh. It had started off low and slowly rose until it was heard by everyone in the area. What the fuck is so funny you shit? This fool clearly doesn't know who he is dealing with, shall we show him Naruto-sama? Ha, who the hell said thaw? Freed was cut off as Naruto slammed his foot into the reincarnated fallen angel's head, sending him several yards away from the small group near the trees. Naruto started walk towards Freed with a smirk on his face. It was finally time. I just found what you had said funny, because when you said Excalibur, I couldn't help but wonder if you're talking about the ones you had stolen. But perhaps you were talking about the ones that Gawain and his group had brought with them, because I definitely know you weren't talking about. The wind around Naruto picked up as a grin grew on his face. He lifted his invisible sword above his head, and released the magic covering his blade. The invisible air dispersed in a golden flash of light to reveal Excalibur ruler to the world, the Excalibur ruler that I possess. Zenovia and the others stared in complete shock as Naruto swung the sword a few times before pointing its blade at Freed. The brunette was the first to speak, as she realized what she had been fighting earlier that day. But the final sword of Excalibur that had gone missing after its creation, where did he get that from? What the hell? Freed gritted his teeth as he glared at Naruto, ignoring the shock and surprise he was feeling. Now let's see how you do Freed. The 3 Excaliburs you stole versus the strongest of the Excalibur fragments. Silently, Saber materialized herself on Naruto's shoulder with a look of determination on her face, as she sensed all the different Excaliburs in the area. It won't be long now, my old friend. I promise we will make you whole once again. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.